This video is brought to you in unison with the folks at TCG Player. Use my affiliate link in the description to purchase any TCG product you need. With that out of the way, let's get into this. A Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship qualifier is the most important event of the year for most Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. This is the event that can make or break legends in the game, as getting top 4 at one of these yearly events grants yourself an invite to the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship. So when it looks like Matthew Caroli is about to win game 1 of a 2 out of 3 match and the winner would get their world invite, things shifted dramatically in Roland Fang's favor when he activated Maxx.
I assume he's going to pull the trigger here, yeah.
By using the power of this limited card at the time, he would go on to take game 1 and the eventual game 3 of this match, making him the winner and the receiver of the invitation to the 2017 Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship.
White Knight, the true Greco fighter.
Looks like Caroli's just going to concede.
He's conceding his tempo.
He knows he lost way too much tempo off of that trade.
But why was Maxx so good in this scenario, and why was Roland Fang playing it? Well, this can all be tied back to the question, why was Maxx banned? And to answer this question, we need to understand the influence of special summoning. Special summoning is a form of summoning in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game that is separate from your traditional normal summoner set, and while you can only conduct one normal summon per turn, you can special summon as many times as you want. This, as Yu-Gi-Oh! Progressed, was what enabled the game to get faster and faster, and made games decided within the first 2 to 3 turns rather than 7 or more. With the game getting faster and special summoning becoming an integral piece to countless strategies, there has to be a way to slow down these decks, and indeed there was a variety of options. In the present, we have cards like Nibiru the Primal Being, a card that can tribute all face-up monsters on the field and summon itself if your opponent has summoned at least 5 monsters. Considering decks Weather Control like Salamangreat or a combo like Spiral can easily summon 5 times, this card would be very practical and powerful in multiple matchups in the current metagame. In the past, we have had cards like Vanity's Emptiness, which in fact is banned now because of its ability to prevent your opponent from special summoning at all. Granted, there are weaknesses to the card. For example, it's a trap card, making it inherently slow. If I were to go second, this card wouldn't be able to stop the opponent from special summoning until their second turn, and by that point it may already be too late. Regardless of this flaw, the card was so powerful that it was banned in April 2017 and hasn't come off the list since. Now, when we think about the past 2 examples I just gave, both of these cards are good but have flaws, where Nibiru can only be used if they've summoned 5 times, which isn't always good against every strategy, along with how not every strategy gets hurt if their board is tributed, and Vanity's Emptiness is too slow. What if there was a card, however, that solved all 3 of these problems that I just mentioned? If that card did exist, it would be a powerhouse in the game, and sure enough, that card exists within this level 2 Earth Insect type monster. Maxx solves both of the problems the past 2 cards I mentioned have, both being a hand trap that can be used on the opponent's first turn, works on the first special summon your opponent conducts, and has a plus side that is almost always good, in this case being able to draw cards. What's interesting about how Maxx is designed is it isn't as straightforward as the other 2 cards, but rather it gives the opponent a choice. Do they want you to draw cards to establish their field, or do they not want to let you draw while preventing a board being established through special summoning? While they are given a choice, the options aren't beneficial to them in the slightest and are almost too advantageous for the user of this hand trap. Most of the time, you will see the choice of preventing massive draws by stopping you dead in their tracks, and while some decks are okay with this, a lot of decks are not okay with this, and that creates a problem for many combo decks. For example, there are exceptions to this rule. For example, Dark Synchro could actually deck the opponent out because they could special summon so many times, but regardless of that, most of the time this statement still stands. Let's say they special summon 1 time after Maxx. That still means you're replacing the Maxx C with an additional draw, acting essentially as an upstart goblin. This isn't even bad for you because you still have 6 cards to deal with the opponent while they couldn't fully amass a powerful board to disrupt. Best case, which happens a lot by the way, you'll draw more than 1 card, making this a Pot of Greed-esque effect, and also stuns your opponent for the turn. This is an impressive amount of advantage and tempo from just 1 card, and while in most situations people would argue for a ban of a card this powerful, there's also an argument to leave this card at 3 copies, but not 1 or 2. This dichotomy exists because at 3 copies there's the highest likelihood of you being able to counter your opponent's Maxx C with your own, and thus leads to a game where you can counter Maxx C, but at 3 copies you also need to take into account that you will have to deal with this at one point or another. There is another argument to be made about Maxx C that it's actually a fair card. Personally, I don't agree with this statement, and I believe that it's only so impactful because of its oppressive nature. It's weird that a card can be so powerful that it makes the game fairer, but it is definitely something to think about when looking at Maxx C and its card design. This is just my opinion, however, and shouldn't be taken as the end-all be-all. Maxx C's impact can be shown through differences between the OCG, the version of the game located in Asia, and the TCG, the version of the game located everywhere else, as the TCG has Maxx C banned, while the OCG has it at 3 copies. The TCG is commonly considered the calmer version of the two, while the OCG has a lot more powerful cards at higher copies in their format. To give perspective on this, the most represented deck in the TCG right now is Spiral, even with multiple hits on the ban list like Drones, Quick Fix, and Resort at 1. Compared to the OCG, they have the deck almost at full power comparatively, with cards like Drone at 3 and Quick Fix, Resort, and 1-for-1 at 2. And even then, it is not the best deck. This isn't to say that Maxx C is always stopping degenerate combo decks from existing. And for example, Dragon Link was a recent tier 1 deck in the OCG that was heavily oppressive because of its consistent 1-2 card combos that ended on multiple negates and ripping cards out of hand. This isn't to downgrade the impact Maxx C has had, however, and to further emphasize how powerful this card truly was in its prime, let's now look at the history of this banned Yu-Gi-Oh card. This card was released in 2011 in the Yu-Gi-Oh 5D set Storm of Ragnarok, and first appeared in YCS Charlotte with the pilot of Billy Break as he put 1 copy in his side deck. This quickly changed, however, and the card started to see more and more play as special summoning became more and more popular. The first big influx of this card's popularity, however, was with windups, as this card completely countered the infamous windup hand loop. The second instance when this card became increasingly more popular was when Dragon Rulers came into the fold, promoting the use of Maxx C to gain more card advantage and slowing the opponent down. After this point, the card would consistently see use over each and every format. Some required Maxx C more than others, but generally speaking, there were decks that Maxx C just wasn't good against. And there were enough of these popular strategies that warranted Maxx C to not be hit on the ban list at this time. It wasn't until Pendulums really started to impact the game that Maxx C saw heavy and consistent usage to counter massive special summon strategies. Even after the Tier 0 Perform and Pow Perform H format, in other terms Pepe format, concluded, the rise of other special summon strategies like Extra Deck Monarchs, Burning Abyss Phantom Knight, Cosmo, and other Pendulum variants continue to promote the use of Maxx C. This finally left the TCG to semi-limit the card on the August 2016 ban list, hitting the other 4 aforementioned decks in the process. This leads to the next format of Metalfoes, ABC, and Paleozoic Frogs at the top of the food chain, but Maxx C was still amazing against all of them. After this, Zodiac would come into the fray, and by April 2017, Maxx C would go to 1 copy. This, while not being the most effective solution to the problem, gives Yu-Gi-Oh players looking back at this time period an insight of why Maxx C should be at 3 or 0 copies and not 1 or 2. 10 months later, after Zodiac was finally hit and another Tier 0 format in the form of Spiral concluded, this powerhouse of a hand trap would finally be banned. Maxx C is very controversial and polarizing in Yu-Gi-Oh history, and while some love it and others hate it, nothing can change the impact it has had on this game. And for better or worse, that's why Maxx C is banned. Thank you so much to Chaz Banks for becoming a channel member, and if you want to support the channel while getting exclusive perks at the same time, make sure to check out my channel memberships or Patreon. It helps the channel out immensely. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Join my Discord if you want to be even further enveloped in the BladeYGO community. Thank you all so much for watching, and with that, I hope to see you soon.